This is an update on some of my crossbreeding projects. This was actually one of the little squabs that was in the last video. It was a little shield-marked Kazan Old German Owl cross. You might remember this is the bird that has the clutch mate with the weird whorl on top of its head. We're going to look at it a little after this, but this is the little shield-marked one. So this is half Kazan, half Old German Owl. So this bird is, pretty ordinary. Inherited kind of an owlish head, grouse legs, the mother's markings for the most part. Has some facial markings kind of similar to a turbotine, or maybe some of the blaze-marked Taganrogs or Shiliki, which is actually not surprising, considering that some people think that the Taganrogs came out of Russian posture breeds and frills are owls. So that's kind of almost a justification of that theory. Very similar markings. A little bit of a similar head to a Taganrog. So this is one of them. And from here we're going to look at the little bird with the whorl on the head. That I am quite pleased with it. It is not only has some unusual genetic features, but is also much closer to type than a lot of the others I've bred out of these crossbreeding projects this year. As I mentioned before, there is, we're not just doing this for the sake of, loose stock birds or anything like that. There is a intention in mind, and this is for genetic purposes and also other intentions. So this is the clutch mate to the last bird. You might remember this bird from the last video. This is the little bird with the whorl on the head. It's a red check splash. This bird, as you can see, has actually inherited a lot of the Kazan sire's carriage characteristics. We don't have much in the way of grouse legs, which some of these don't. They kind of go intermediate to kind of barely any grouse legs, up to quite a bit at times. And 13 tail feathers in this one. The Kazan sire has 16. So this is closer. One of the things I was after was the larger tail, and also has the hanging wings of the sire. Similar carriage, an owl-like head. Now right there is kind of interesting. Old German owl mother. You almost have a bare spot in the nape on this bird. See it right there? If she turns, kind of a bare spot. So that seems to be kind of a different carryover of the frill gene. There's a Spanish breed called the Puñalda. If you have a copy of Wendell Levi's The Pigeon, you'll mention that. And Puñalda in Spanish was roughly translated by Senor Bragg, who reported on a lot of the Spanish breeds for Levi's books. He said that Puñalda meant stab with a fork, and it referred to a little bare spot in the nape, and it was believed that the Puñaldas were related to figuritas and some of the Catalonian tumblers that had neck frills or cravats. So I don't know if you can see there is that rose, or whorl we were talking about on the back of the head. And what that actually is, the best way that it can be explained, it's kind of a symmetrical crest, or almost half a crest with a rosette. It's kind of a very kind of an odd little thing. It's not something I've seen there. Now there is mention once again in Levi's book of the Leonardo, which was a breed created in the 1940s and 1950s by James Leonard. I think of Tucson, Arizona, if memory serves right, is where James Leonard came from. Actually just doing a little bit of reading about James Leonard here the other day. He crossed I think it was Bocara trumpeters and Jacobins. And he got some birds with a, what he called an asymmetrical crest, pretty consistently, and he was breeding that. So there, as far as anybody knows, I don't think the Leonardo exists anymore. It hasn't been seen for many, many years. That feature may on the back of this bird may be similar. I'm not 100% sure. Like I said, there's, as far as anybody knows, there's no living Leonardos left anymore. But there's kind of a view of that crest. I mean, it almost looks like it's half a shell crest. So this bird's actually pretty unusual. As some of you will know, the shell crest, like you have in the old German owls, that's a recessive characteristic. It should not transmit in any form to the F1. I'm guessing the that little bare spot on the nape of this bird, it's not the first one I've seen out of these that shows it. So I think even though that is connected to the neck frill, I think that is probably a different gene that maybe comes out in some heterozygous owl and frill and turbot crosses, things of that nature. So kind of get a better look right there. You can see that bare spot right there. And this is kind of a neat little bird. I think it's a hen. Pretty tame. She'll sit on my hand, and you know, in the loft. And I am pretty happy with this bird. The whorl didn't quite turn out the way I expected. I really kind of expected kind of a flat rose on the back of the head. Is kind of what I expected by the way it looked when this was a squab. So it's actually it's similar to a shell crest, only it is different. I still think it's an unusual thing. I'm not so sure anymore if it has any real redeeming features. You know, like I said, it kind of looks like a half a shell crest. It's you know, kind of like a malformed crest, you know, like a weak expression of a crest almost, only kind of half an expression. So as far as that being of real genetic value, structural genetics to, you know, maybe go on and do something in the future and, you know, some sort of breed to be based around it, probably not likely. It's different. But I really do like this bird's carriage. And it's definitely a step in the right direction of what I'm after. So you'll notice, unlike the clutchmate, that kind of very normal carriage did not resemble the Kazan at all. There's a good look at the feet on this one. Kind of some traces of a little bit of plumage on the feet, but no, not a real grouse. Kind of just a heterozygous for grouse. So, as I said, these two I just showed, these are the squaps from the last video. So this is how they're doing. This little hen is definitely going to go, I think, into the breeding program. As I said, it's definitely what I consider a step in the right direction. Has the carriage, the wing and tail carriage and extra tail feathers I want. So, signing off, that is about it. Until next time.